Hi, my name is Jen, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, as a lot of you know, my background is one of being passionate about feminism and being involved in that movement, and then being disillusioned and realizing that my entire worldview was wrong. I became very interested in politics and discussing politics, and I wanted to listen to everything now that I was allowed access to everything. And my friends didn't want to hear any of it, so I lost them. And that's when I started my YouTube channel and became engaged in the right-wing and conservative movement here in Sweden. Even though I became very active in the movement here in Sweden, I was getting most of my political news and ideas from the conservative speakers in North America. What took me a while to realize was that the voices in North America differed a lot from the ones in Sweden. The voices here that I assumed would have the similar type of ideas that went under the same kind of umbrella term of right-wing. The right-wing here in Sweden is in many ways nothing like the right-wing movement in North America, and I had known that before about the parties in parliament, but I thought differently about the anti-establishment, free speech activists, alternative speakers and journalists. What I have come to find out recently is that even with the dissidents, there is a somewhat liberal leaning, especially when it comes to family politics. It seems like the main thing holding the right wing in Sweden together is their criticism of mass immigration and their opposition to political correctness. Conservatism can be a hard concept to grasp, as it can mean many things. In my view, conservatism is putting family first, it's small government, and also of conserving that which already works. Conservatism can also apply to the conservation of nature and living in tune with your own nature. The traditional housewife is oftentimes used as a derogatory term to talk about the ideal woman of the right wing and conservatives. The housewife is seen as a prisoner in her own home with no will of her own. She is chained to the stove and always ready to pop out another baby at the will of her husband to care for single-handedly as her husband works, travels, and plays poker with his buddies. This is of course not really the case. While a lot of men do want a woman to care for him and his kids, the equation works both ways and is much more nuanced. Some women dream of being a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mother with a husband who loves her. Some would even call this freedom. A lot of women view their role as a wife and as a mother as the most important call in life. This is, however, not all conservative women, but I do think that a lot of them idealize this family constellation. I think that the conservative model values the woman immensely. Contrary to popular belief, she has a lot of power. She watches over and controls over the family unit. She is the boss over her own life and of the home. She chooses this life because she values spending time with her kids and raising them, and spending time with her husband and creating a loving home and family. In this hyper-individualistic, state-trusting society here in Sweden, we cannot fathom how a woman could ever choose to have that life for herself, as she should of course want to put her babies into kindergarten as soon as possible, because of course she should want to pursue a career. A modern woman should today not have to put her monetary safety onto her husband. That should be left up to her, or more realistically, her employer. A main issue that I have had with feminism is that they seem to view women as perpetual victims. I thought that the Swedish right wing was different, but a couple of months ago, something interesting happened. The Swedish alt-right started the hashtag Shame Patrol. This was a troll campaign to out women who behaved like thoughts, the white knights who stood up for them, and the wanking geezers who like, comments, and monetarily supports the thoughts in the hopes of getting noticed by them. The campaign was devastating to a lot of people and caused a great divide in what I would call the Twitter right-wing community. A lot of women were criticized for their use of the platform, a lot of males were memed apart, and there was a lot of bullying going on for a couple of weeks. I do not condone the hashtag. I can't make this video without bringing this up, however, because what they initiated has resulted in no one being able to talk about this subject without being labeled alt-right and being put into the group of that hashtag. I would assume that the right wing in Sweden, who have had to endure a lot of scrutiny by being labeled things that we are not by the mainstream and the left wing, that they would be careful of using that same tactic, but in this question, they are not. There can be no nuance in this cultural question, as the current belief is that if you hold mainstream conservative values, you are the same as this troll campaign, and you are committing the giant misstep of being a moralist. Moral, honor, and duty are swear words in Sweden, and they leave a bad taste in our mouth, as the general consensus is that these ideas would intrude and infringe on our freedom. The main character that became the target of scrutiny from this campaign was a lady by the name of who poses provocatively on Twitter and then gets surprised when she gets sexually charged comments and DMs. She would screenshot the thirsty DMs that she got on Twitter and then post it for all to see with the names visible, effectively shaming her admirers. This is the exact same tactic that a lot of feminists will use to claim oppression points, but somehow anti-feminists and right-wingers alike have no problems with her doing that. When she does it, it's empowering. My main issue with the hashtag was the words being used to attack individuals, the bullying tactics in general, how ineffective it was in reaching their supposed goal, and that the initiative seemed to allude to men having the final say in how women are to act and dress. This does not align with my view of how women and men work. A recent article by Joachim Andersson discusses a book by the name of Smart and Sexy, where intersexual competition is explored. The book discusses that the main group affected by sexual promiscuity is women themselves, and therefore we are the ones who are most averse to the behavior, and that we are the ones who are quickest to call the behavior out. Sexual promiscuity from a group of women lessens the market value of all women. I believe that women are of much greater value than our sexuality, and that we shouldn't glorify hookup culture, sexual promiscuity, pornography, and the devaluing of intimacy. These are mainstream conservative ideas, but in Sweden they are heavily frowned upon, as they are believed to infringe on our sexual liberty. Right wing in Sweden is, like I alluded to earlier, anyone who believes in less immigration. The cultural aspects are nowhere to be found. The Swedish Democrats, who often get painted as extreme right-wingers, have barely any conservative family politics. They used to have a somewhat restrictive abortion policy, but they backed away from it. Mira Aksoy, a conservative alternative writer, tweeted on International Women's Day that a woman who marries a good man and has a family with that man is a free woman, and that the current ideal of studying and focusing on your career well into your 30s is a trap and a lie. This is a very obvious talking point in the American conservative arena, But here in Sweden, left-wingers and right-wingers alike seem to lose their marbles over that statement. People immediately started talking about trapped and abused women, completely missing the part where Mira clearly underlines the importance of a good man. They also confused her own personal studies that she's already completed with her focusing on career and studying before finding a good man and building a family, completely missing that she's not even turned 25 and she is already in a long-term loving relationship where they are comfortable in talking about building a family and getting married. My view of what Mira Aksoy was saying with her tweet is that a woman who has a meaningful life is a free woman. Everything in life is not about money, and being independent isn't necessarily synonymous with freedom. You can have all the money in the world and a successful career, but no purpose and no one to share your wealth with. That to me is not freedom. That to me is a lie and a trap. To have a successful home life is essential to happiness, in my opinion. To have a loving home to come home to after a rough day is bliss. We are today fooling ourselves by thinking that our relationships don't need to be worked on and that we don't have to prioritize building a home and a family. And let me get this out of the way before we move on. Sometimes we find ourselves with bad men or bad women, find ourselves with who we thought was a prince, but in actuality turns out to be vile and abusive. This can happen to anyone, and we do need a system to help these people. There are situations where divorces are inevitable and necessary. Sometimes humans are evil. We don't need to shame nor look down upon victims of domestic abuse to discuss the ideal family and to discuss family values. I think that's where a lot of people engaging in this discussion gets lost. It seems that upholding conservative norms gets confused with wanting to stigmatize domestic abuse victims and stigmatize divorces in general. When I am talking about divorces being too common today, I am not negating that they sometimes are necessary for the health of the family or the individual. I think that divorce is too common and that marriage is not at all looked upon with the seriousness needed. Instead of working on our relationships, we instead look for ways out. And I would expect that from feminism. We've seen that for a long time now, but it seems like this mindset is prevalent now in all walks of life. The strong, independent woman is idealized. Liberals, libertarians, and Swedish conservatives all think that sexual liberalism in the form of decadency, sexual promiscuity, and even sex work is to be normalized. And I am not a fundamentalist in any way. All family constellations that fall outside the norm don't have to be scrutinized. There's always going to be exceptions. Like with homosexuality, which I don't oppose in any way. I don't think that you choose to be gay. I think you are born that way. You choose how you treat yourself and the ones you love. You choose to be faithful or monogamous, but you don't choose your sexual orientation. You cannot choose your sexual orientation. There's a large push for liberal ideas in the mainstream media, but there doesn't seem to be enough pushback from the conservatives. I would love to see more of a discussion on conservative family values. We need to combat these insane liberal ideas coming from the media. I don't think that young girls should be posing in their underwear on Instagram for likes. I don't think that young girls should be engaging in hookup culture and sleeping around with men they don't know. I don't think that freshly turned 18-year-olds should be allowed to do pornography or to sell their nudes online. I don't believe that young men should be replacing intimacy with pornography. I don't believe that grown men should be spending their time and money on online prostitutes instead of working on their real-life relationships. I don't think that we should be fooling ourselves into thinking that happiness and freedom is getting drunk and sleeping with the first thing that says hi to us. I don't believe that we should be enabling the norm of being alone, childless, and drunk at 40 because we chose to focus on career and party lifestyle. This video is mostly just the start of a very broad discussion that I would like to continue having on my channel. I am not going to take any topic off the table on my channel. I am going to talk about whatever I want, and I don't fear being labeled things that I am not, because I know who I am. So yeah, there's one thing that I won't talk about on my channel. I think you all know what that is. It's the thing that is happening around the world right now. I don't believe that I have anything new to bring to the table, and I think that there are so many voices talking about it right now, so many voices that have a lot more information to bring that I do not, and that are more helpful than I can be. And but if you do want to hear my personal thoughts and my personal experience, I did film a video for my Patreons. I will film Patreon only videos, like bi-weekly maybe, I'm not really sure, something like that, or whenever I feel like it. On my Patreon, there's also a invite to the Patreon only Discord server if you want to join that. It's a good time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to comment what you think, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!